When Jayne Kennedy was breaking glass ceilings, no one paid attention, really. All anyone could say was, it's about time.
It's about time.
It's about time that there was a first African-American woman to win Miss Ohio USA title in 1970. It was about time that there was a woman to host a sports show. It was about time that a woman, a Black woman, who was so stunningly beautiful, would adorn the covers of many major magazines. And she did it with class.
With class.
All the TV shows, movies, and commercials. And don't forget the NAACP Image Award for a great performance in the classic film Body and Soul, winning an Emmy Award for her work hosting the 1982 Rose Bowl. Standing up for what she believed in, fighting the good fight for those who are powerless to fight for themselves. It's about time that she received the National Sports Media Association's Roone Aldridge Award for Innovation. And it's about time that we honor her for breaking racial barriers and forging a way for many women to follow in her footsteps. It's about damn time.
Salute.
Jayne Kennedy.
Salute.
Yes, it is about time. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Marisa Tigney, host of the Heard That with Marisa Tigney podcast. And this is a crossover between my pod show and Dr. Tachi's MediaScope. And we are so excited to have the one and only Jayne Kennedy, as you saw in that beautiful introductory of the video. She is going to be talking about her memoir that is out now. And by the time this chat is done with, we encourage everybody to go on Amazon and other outlets that she will mention in this conversation to purchase her book. It is absolutely extraordinary how she tells about her journey growing up into the person that she is now at a young 74 years young. She is definitely not done yet. So we are so thankful for everybody tuning in. And I'm so grateful again to co-host this live with the one and only Dr. Tachi of MediaScope.
Hey!
There she is, looking all lovely.
You're looking lovely too. Listen, we have
Thank
a special
you.
guest today. For once, can I come on looking like I have sense? So here I am, trying to keep up with you, Marisa. How are you?
I am so good. I know that there's people that are watching that are dealing with this crazy weather that's happening right now, the snowstorms and such. And so hopefully everybody is somewhere warm, somewhere safe, and tuning in to this incredible program today.
Absolutely. And I'm sending you all some Florida sun because it's 70 something here today. And
come melt all this that's happening right now. Please push the sun this way. I got away from this stuff. I can't believe it followed me here.
See, you brought Detroit with you, or you brought Michigan with you.
I didn't mean it. Those that live in Texas, I'm sorry.
Well, before we get to it, I want to say that we are definitely going to have time for you all to have questions towards the end of the show. So make sure that you have any questions or comments and put them in the chat. Those of you that are watching on Instagram, we can't populate your comments, but we can read them. So if you have a question, make sure you put it in the chat. And that goes for everybody else watching on all the different platforms. We're on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitch, on Instagram, and of course on the Tubing of the U, YouTube. So
I like that tubing of the U.
The tubing of the U.
The cool thing is, out of all of this entire conversation, that we are giving away to one person her incredible memoir. So you want to definitely make sure that you're tuned in, you're paying attention. I know there's people that are watching right now that has read her book. She is currently on her book tour right now. She came and blessed us here in Fort Worth, Texas. And so that is what we're going to talk about, as well as so many other things. So definitely want to make sure you're paying attention and get those questions ready. Dr. Tachi will be reading some of them and we'll be asking Jayne a few of your inquiring questions.
And before we go and get to our wonderful guest, Jayne Kennedy, I just want to say hello to everybody that's on Instagram. Also, those of you on YouTube, D. Carpio is here. We've also got Jayne Balcom. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here.
Hey, D.
Yes, Divine Right, also known as Serena Wills, is here.
She done brought the food truck. Let's go.
She brought the food truck. Sawyer, also known as Susan Sawyer, is here, and we are, she did bring the food truck, and we've got tacos. It is
Taco Friday. Let's go.
It is Taco Friday. Beep, beep. We've got the keys to the food truck. And without any further ado, because we could sit here and talk all day, but you're not here for us. You are here for our guest, the illustrious, the incomparable, the person who made it possible for us to do this today, Miss Jayne Kennedy.
Let's go.
Hello.
What an introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. This is amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I met the two of you by watching you on a podcast. I think it was yours, Dr. Tachi, and Marisa was your guest.
Yes.
And I saw that and I just fell in love with the two of you. So, it's been a journey, and I called and I said, I have to have you as part of my book. So Marisa's in the book playing Jayne, and now I'm just so happy to be here today to be your guest.
Oh, we're so thankful that you're here. And definitely Dr. Tachi and I had talked about that numerous amount of times, of how much of an impact that you have made in those that are in media and journalism and broadcasting, and the two of us. And so to reflect on that and to see that it's in this book, it's just like a full circle moment for us. And I wanted to get things started, Jayne, and talk about the book itself, the title, because when I was in Fort Worth, and you, like I said, you had just blessed us with your presence and talked about your book, there was a few people behind me that had said, why plain Jayne? There's nothing plain about her. She's extraordinary. She acts, she writes, she goes in, she's a businesswoman, she's an award-winning journalist, an award-winning actress. I don't understand why she just says plain Jayne, like of all the titles. And I'm listening to the person behind me and I'm like, that's a great question to ask her. So the title itself, because I know it's, a labor of love of who you are and the journey that you take us through in this incredibly, beautifully written memoir that you have done. And like I said, I have read this twice because I felt, and I'm sure that Dr. Tachi can concur, I felt like you were talking through the pages to us on the different aspects of, your childhood, your teen years, your college years, and then going into Hollywood and then beyond that. So the name Plain Jayne, how did you settle on that name?
I've always thought of myself that way. I've never thought myself to be above and beyond anyone. Mm-hmm. And when I was, I know there's the Hollywood edge of me. I know all of that. And I know people see me in a different light than the way that I see myself. But to me, I wanted to keep my feet on the ground when I left Ohio. And I was determined to say to myself at the end of my career that I've never done anything that have taken me away from who my parents raised me to be. And if that time ever did come, then I would just leave and go back home. So Plain Jayne was important to me. And my family always teased me. They said, there's nothing plain about you. And then when my grandma one day said, let her go on and be to Hollywood if she wants to. She could be Plain Jayne if she wants to. So this is something that has been with me throughout my life. It was a commitment to just remain who my parents made me to be.
Fantastic. I was thinking that same thing. I was like, plain where?
Yeah. Yeah, because her resume speaks for itself, who she is. Yeah.
And, I love being glamorous. I love being, because my mom taught me how to sew. So I made thousands of dresses and, a lot of them I wore on award shows. And, once I got into Hollywood and, but, I love having all the achievements that I have made in my life. But those are things that I did. It was never who I was. And so, and I wanted to make sure that in writing this story, and there were many other titles that I could have used, but I was committed to keep playing Jayne. And when I did present it to the publisher, I was sure they were going to change the name. I was sure they were. And I said, they don't want this for the name of a book. But they did. They kept it. So, you know, they saw who I was within the title and then on the pages.
Mm. So in going with that, like in reading this book, first of all, I have to tell you, I read it in one day. I think I sat down and I read all 462, well, it's 430 odd something pages. And I read it, I started at 1 o'clock. I was finished by 8. So wow. It was that riveting, that engaging, and it reads almost sing-songy. There's a back and forth. So you open it with this revelation, and I was like, oh, but then I forgot about it, because then you go into your family, then you go into being Miss Ohio, then you go into all these different things, but then you go back to visit things again. So there's almost a back and forth. I'm wondering who made the decision, or how you made the decision for that to be the cadence of this book.
Well, initially when I started writing, it's in 4 quarters. And I had started with Jane Harrison, which is my maiden name, and I wanted to tell about my life growing up. And then the second part was Jayne Kennedy, which was my life in Hollywood, getting married, moving to Los Angeles, and all the work that I did in Hollywood, and all the glory that I never anticipated when I left small town Wickliffe, Ohio. And then you go into the third quarter. I did write this in quarters because of my years in the NFL, but I did want the third quarter to be about my daughters and my family present day. And then the fourth quarter was supposed to be, so who are you when you're no longer, you're the daughter of 2 parents, a wife to someone, a mother to someone. And so who are you? Who are you at your authentic core? Even more reason to keep it plain and simple. And so when I'm writing this book, I finally got to the last part and I said, you know what? I'm not done yet. And so then I had to write overtime. So it didn't end up being 4 quarters, but it did go into overtime. And that was because I came to a realization in the 4th quarter that it wasn't about me. It was about the universe. It was about my standing. It was about finding myself because of who I was, realizing that it's my ancestors who have made me who I am. And it's not about me when I say, I did this, I did that, I did this. It was because God made it possible for me. My ancestors and their lineage, my father, my mom, you know, they made me who I am. And I could never forget that. I could never pass that and get to the last part of the book and not acknowledge that. So it was very important for me to go forward, because if I truly was playing Jayne, I had to turn away from who I thought I was as an individual, but who was I at my authentic core.
That is so good. I think the big thing too, Jayne, that you just said that is very important is authenticity. And in the industry of what you've done in the media core, in the journalistic core, throughout this book, the thing that I caught through all of that is your connection to people. Like, you beautifully connected to where you grew up, to, you know, when you were Miss Ohio, to when you were on, you know, the USO tour with Bob Hope, and, you know, and then, you know, NFL Today on CBS. But the connections that you had because of you being so authentic, like, well, I know we're skipping ahead a little bit, but I think I would just want to touch on the fact that your authenticity showed throughout these pages, especially with one legendary Muhammad Ali, and the friendship that you both had, and how he, like, instilled his trust in you. when speaking to him as a friend, and also speaking to him when you were getting a story about him when he had those long matches, those long fights, those heavyweight championship fights.
Yes.
The core of that was just you being you, and the trust that you two built with your friendship.
Very true. Very true. And I think that could be said for many of the celebrity people that people think that, that they know, because, they see their persona on camera, on stage, or television, and they don't actually know who the person is. Mm-hmm. And I've always said that, I wanted, as I'm repeating what I said before, I just wanted to be me. And I think that helped people that became part of my circle. They all felt that way as well. And so there was never anyone that was pretentious. There was never anyone that felt that they had to be something different to be around me. Or they didn't see me as someone threatening to try to be a friend of theirs because of their celebritydom. So, I think the thing that my parents instilled in me was something that stayed true to me throughout my career and throughout my life. And you mentioned Muhammad Ali. I've heard people say, well, I know she hooked up with Ali. He was my friend. No. Why? I mean, I was just a friend, and I was that way with so many of the people that I met, only because I carried myself with respect. I remember when I interviewed for the NFL Today, and I didn't know the person that I was going to be interviewing. And it was back in the day when there was no internet, no anything that was in society today to assist us in trying to do research back then, because all we had was ABC, NBC, and CBS. So we have the opportunity to meet someone the day we are interviewing them. And the first thing that I did was I asked my friend the night before, who played in the NBA, what does an athlete look for when they're trying to do an interview that they would like to do? And he said, Jayne, you don't have to worry about that. You just have to make a friend. Just make a friend. And you are such a warm person that they will open up. So when I went into the studio, and I'm getting ready to do my interview with this guy, I saw a backgammon board in the corner. And I said, hey, do you play backgammon? He said, oh, yeah. So we played backgammon for like 45 minutes. And by the time we got on stage to do the interview, we were friends. And then I had people like Walter Payton issuing an edict around the NFL. And he said, we're going to take care of our Jayne Kennedy. He said, I don't want anything going wrong with her in the position that she is right now. And it spread throughout the NFL. And I had athletes that respected me. So that's why it was easy to do the interviews. I respected them, they respected me. And it was because I never pretended to be anyone else than just myself.
Wow. So I have a question for you. Since we're talking about all of the traditional network television, and that was what you had back then, I'm very interested to know what you think about not just the sports landscape or sports reporting landscape, but the media landscape now. Back then, you only had, then the four when Fox came out. But now
only three.
Yeah, only three, and then later on, Fox came about, but it was only NBC, CBS,
ABC.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now, not only do you have legacy media, not only do you have cable, not only do you have streaming, now you've got platforms like this. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are about this new media landscape and how you would suggest those of us that are coming up in media fit into this new media landscape.
Well, to be quite honest, I wish I had it when I was coming up. Because, there was so much that I didn't know that was happening in the world because I was so busy working. And then when I was doing the NFL Day, I was flying back and forth to Los Angeles every week, and then all of the other things that I did, I was always gone. I remember there was one year where I only had 28 days of the year home. Everything else
Wow.
involved me being somewhere where I was involved in my career. And that was a hard life to deal with. And so you have people today talking about, they have all of these platforms. Yes, I wish I had those opportunities, because back then I didn't know. There was no feedback. I didn't know. I'm flying from one airport to another. How did I have time to find out what was happening in my life? And then when people would talk about being a reporter, and what the journalists were saying, most of them were negative because they didn't want a woman on the desk of the NFL Today. But John Johnson and Jet Magazine and Ebony Magazine made sure that I was taken care of. And they said I gotta say, John Johnson told everybody, he said, if anything comes across his desk, it better be positive. And somebody came and they brought a photo to him and he says, no, we're not throwing that. We're not going to do anything to hurt our Jayne. So, a lot of it was just respect, because that door had not been opened before. So when you're talking about people and their platforms today, I do wish I had that, because I wish I had a podcast that I could have done. When I did my Love Your Body exercise program, we had one of the first exercise programs in America. Me, Jane Fonda, and Richard Simmons. And we were the only three. And so how did we get that out? We were selling records. Like it was on a record, the first Love Your Body was on a record. And then we went into tape when I had a deal with Columbia Pictures. And then I get at the top of the chart, and it's going so well, but I have no way to advertise it other than paying $1 billion for advertising, which I didn't have.
Yeah.
So, if I had these opportunities that they have today, I would take full advantage of it. But you also have to remain who you are.
100%. 100%. And I think that's the connectivity when you see people in the media, that they're, the Dr. Tachi and I talked about this a little bit, the attention span of someone, between 10 to 15 seconds. And if they're not going to connect with you, they're going to either keep scrolling or they're going to move on. And with watching you growing up, when I was growing up, and I talked to you about this, and then this beautiful chapter that you included with us, and then the important part of representation matters. That's what is so, it stands out to me, is the authentic, just someone that gives the authentic, that when they're not, just telling the story and not going on the script, they take you along the process with them. They take you along to the person that you are sitting down with, a Wilt Chamberlain, a Muhammad Ali, a Terry Bradshaw,
Yes.
All these people, you taking us along with what you're, talking to the person about. And that, to me, is just beyond the journalism aspect when it comes to, people that are now in this game of media and journalism, that some of them are just basically all talk, but they are not, bringing the audience along,
And you have to have your respect too, because,
Yes.
You have people that you want to come back and interview them. You don't want people to be saying, oh no, I don't want to talk to them ever
The
again.
credibility is important.
Your credibility is essential. I remember when I was summarily put away from the desk of the NFL Today. And the next season, I saw a clip that had Terry Bradshaw, and Phyllis George came to sit with him, and they were at a restaurant. And so she's talking and she asked him a question, and, he didn't answer. And she thought, well, she'll repose the question. And she asked him another question. She says, what are you doing? She says, what is going on here? He said, I'm waiting for Jayne Kennedy. So he said, I had so many of the players that just appreciated me and the way that I
That's
respected
so good.
them. And it was amazing. I remember players following the bus, if we were with the NFL Today and we're on a bus, or if we're on a van, or if we're headed to the airport, in whatever means, and the athletes following us and saying, we're going to escort you to the airport because we'll make sure you're taken care of. And when I did Tampa Bay was playing Philadelphia for the playoffs in I guess it was 1979.
Okay.
It might have been 78, but I think it was 79. And I came to town. Brent never did ask me what was my projection on the game. And so he turned to me that day and he asked me who I thought would win. And I said, oh, okay, yeah. And I had been invited to dinner with Doug Williams and many other players on the team at Doug's house the night before. And so I knew that there were certain players that were going to be coming back off the injured list. I knew a lot of other things, and they all picked Philadelphia to win, and I picked Tampa Bay, and they were shocked. And they, of course, laughed at me. The girl don't know what she's talking about. And Tampa Bay won. Tampa Bay won. And so they're following me to oh my gosh. They were just following me to the airport shouting, Jayne, we're just so grateful that you stood for us, you understood us, you supported us. And then the next week when I got there, we went to the driver said, no, I'm not taking you to the hotel. I'm going to take you to some of the streets in the city because I want you to see something. And I was driving through Tampa Bay and they had signs up on the walls of all the buildings. And it said, to hell with Cosell, we've got Jayne.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So the thing is, like you be yourself and you make a friend and people respect that. If you mistreat people, they don't want you to interview them again.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Which also goes in life.
We see that a lot in this media world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay. So there's something in the book that's a theme, a recurrent theme, in my opinion anyway. And that is, there's a couple, resilience and forgiveness. And as I'm reading, I'm like, wow, I can only hope to be 1/10 of the Christian Miss Jayne is, because I would have flipped over table.
Honey.
Right? Listen, the city would have burned if it wasn't me.
Yeah.
So I was just so struck by, and I'm sure it took time, I'm sure it wasn't immediate, but how did you, with everything that occurred, from being let go from the NFL today to some of the other things that you talked about, how did you come to that point of forgiveness, or at least a point to move on?
Well, I'm an October baby. I'm a Scorpio. And Scorpios are known to not forgive people. But I have had those moments. But you have to really deserve it for me to not forgive you. But with the NFL today, I really felt betrayed when they let me go, because I had done exactly what they wanted me to do. The ratings had gone up. I hadn't asked them for a raise the second year. I was being the person that I thought I wanted to respect. And I was doing very well. Athletes were begging for interviews with me. I remember Brent Musburger told me that one time one guy came up to him and said, when is Jayne going to interview me? And Brent said to him, when you start winning. So,
wow.
Wow.
Mic drop, boom.
Everything was going so well, so there wasn't that moment where you had to stop and say, how do you be cordial to people? Because that was my nature. But with the NFL today and the pain that it caused from them firing me, 3 times they fired me. The first time I challenged them and I said, no, I have a written letter from the president of CBS Sports that made it possible for me to do the NBC show. And so they hired me back. Then they fired me again 2 weeks later. And they said that it was because I would be too exhausted to do 2 shows and I wouldn't be able to perform on the NFL Today. I said, so wait a minute. You're saying Brent Musburger, who works more than I do, he works 5 days a week in Los Angeles. We fly the same plane back to New York on Friday. We fly the same plane back to LA on Sunday night. He does his 5 days a week. And you're telling me that a woman can't and a man can? So then I hired Gloria Allred, the attorney, and then she said, this is discrimination. So they hired me back, and then about 3 weeks later they fired me again, and the complaint was so generic that there was nothing that I could fight. But I didn't know for many years because I carried that bitterness for a long time. And then many years later, there was a book that came out by Rich Podolsky, and it's talked about the NFL Today. And it explained how Phyllis George had been agreed to bring Phyllis George back in December before the Super Bowl even came in February. They had a handshake deal in December that they were going to get rid of me. And here I am at the Super Bowl, and they put me in a helicopter hovering above the city so that I couldn't cause a problem. Because every time, not every time, but many times when I was supposed to do my segment, they were throwing the show to the NFL Today, to the Gingerbread House with Phyllis George in Beverly Hills. And I'm up in a freaking helicopter. What am I going to do? So when I land, Irv Cross came to me and he was just hugging me. He said, Jayne, there's nothing you can do. I said, but what's going on? I don't know what's going on. I didn't know what was going on until Phyllis George appeared on TV that next fall. When they fired me, they had all these reasons. Nobody ever called me. Nobody ever told me that they were bringing Phyllis back. Nobody had told me what their plan was at all. And so I held that bitterness. I did for many, many years. And then 2 years ago, they asked me they were doing a pregame special at the Super Bowl. And they only wanted to do me and Brent Musburger because we were the only living members left. And did I say living?
We knew what you meant. That's why. Living life.
We understood it.
Hey, 74, man. Stumbling over words, saying the wrong word. Sorry about that. We were the only two living members of the desk left. And I told them, I said, I would only do the show if you allowed me to speak my truth as I know it. And I figured, they're going to edit it out anyway. But they said yes. And then when the show aired, they left it all in. They left it all in.
So they allowed you to tell your truth.
They allowed me to tell my truth. And I just I felt gratitude. I felt redemption. I felt that I had finally won, because so many times in this industry, you don't have the chance to win. You're the black girl, so you get put in the back. They never feature you. You're always with the white girl, and she's always getting the front of the advertisement. You're always getting the back. Guys, black guys, always get the white guys get the front, black guys get the back. The pay is never equal. No matter what I do, I'm struggling each and every day. And finally, after 14 years of being in the industry, I got a job where I got equal pay to the white counterpart. Wow. That was in the Jovan commercial in 1984.
Oh, wow.
And then I finally felt that, I'm in this and I'm seen as an equal now. And then when they, here you have only 2 years ago, and they're showing me on the NFL Today with Brent again, and they let me tell my truth. Those are two moments in my life that I felt redemption.
Wow.
That's powerful. That's like, I got a little I'm glad I put on waterproof makeup today. Because that is, and this is why, Jayne, I just want you to just fully grasp and I love this moment now that you're getting your flowers and that you're being seen, and trust and believe that conversation Dr. Tachi and I had in 2022 about representation matters, and me, speaking your name and saying your name and what you have meant to me, to her, to so many women. I mean, Claudia Jordan, there's numerous amount of videos up by her, Jamel Hill, Carrie Champion, Oprah Winfrey, The doors, the ceilings that are shattered would have not happened without you, 100% without you and what you have gone through. And I think of also the special that you were on with the 3 other ladies, and I want you to talk about that with you and Pam Oliver and Taylor Rooks and Stephanie
Reddy.
And I watched that, and I like at the end of it, I teared up because of you had 3 ladies that have been in different genres of, Pam Oliver in a sports thing, you doing sports and entertainment, Stephanie Reddy doing news. And then you have Taylor Rooks, who's grasping what you 3 went through and all of the racism, the bigotry, the ostracization, all of the things that you went through. And for her, literally she teared up, I teared up, and I'm sure other people that were watching it had that same reaction, Jayne, of just us realizing this was not an easy road, but you did not quit.
And I think that that's the message that I want the younger people that don't know me to realize. You can never quit. There's so many reasons that will cause you to quit, but you have to believe in yourself enough to stay strong. There's so many instances that I could have quit, walked away, and I did actually, but then I found myself again. But in the time that I did walk away from the industry, I found another reason. And I said, maybe this was God's plan all along, and I have these 4 amazing daughters that I truly love with all my heart. My husband is incredible. We've been married 40 years. And so, hell yeah, they deserved a place in the book. So, I wrote about them. And, I just wanted people to know who I was. And if you don't know about me as a mother, you don't know who I am. And I thought that was important. So, yes, for younger people to see and to know what I've accomplished. And, I'm not saying it in a vain perspective. I just know that the road was truly a challenge every single day. Every single day. And I don't want to focus on the NFL today, but there were so many things that were impacting my life throughout my life. When I had been familiar with, Jet Magazine and Ebony Magazine and Essence Magazine supporting me all these years in my time as an actress. And, I've been doing all these television shows, and I've got Flip Wilson, I've got, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr. They're all friends, and people that were counterparts with me. I've got people standing up for me in interviews. They're saying, no, we want someone white. And then Marla Gibbs says, no, I want Jayne Kennedy on the show. And they said the person is supposed to be a school teacher who knows about sports. Jayne is perfect for that. And the producers kept saying no. And she said, then I'm not coming that day. So you have to have those other people too in your life. It's not a journey that you travel on your own.
And it's interesting because when you talked about, you made a lot of firsts. You were the first Miss Black Ohio, which then by default made you.
No, not first Miss Black Ohio. Miss Ohio that happened to be Black. Oh, the Black Miss Ohio is a different pageant.
Okay. No, not Miss Black Ohio. The first Miss Ohio who happened to be Black. So sorry, I put them too close together for people to get. So then it also follows by default that you were also the first Black woman to represent Ohio in the Miss America pageant. Is that correct?
Miss USA pageant.
Miss USA pageant. Okay.
Yes.
2 different pageants. So you've made a lot of firsts, and those firsts have afforded us to the opportunities that we have today. But it feels like that not only are we still making firsts, but there are still the things that you talked about are still things that we are facing. So it's uncanny when I'm reading through this and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's pretty much the same. One thing that struck me was that when you were in Miss USA, the pageant, there were two of you, I believe, that were Black women.
Yes,
And
one Miss New Jersey.
you and Miss New Jersey.
Mhm.
And basically, you all were kind of like, well, we're not going to win anyway, so we're just going to kind of get to know
Yeah.
each other, that type of thing. And
Yeah, and there was also Debbie Shelton, who was Miss Virginia, and Virginia had won the previous year, so they said, well, they'd never have back-to-back winners. So she and I became great friends.
So something.
And she ended up winning. She ended up winning the pageant.
Wow.
She went.
Okay.
She won the pageant. Miss USA
That's
competed
amazing.
in the Miss Universe pageant, and I ended up working with her many years later. A friend of mine, George Slaughter, who produced the Rowan and Martin's Laugh In, who gave me my first job. We were doing a job in Hawaii, and they said, we don't want you to know who the cast is. You know, you'll see them when you get there. And I get there and she walked out of the trailer and I'm going, oh my God. It was so happy. I hadn't seen her since the pageant. So, you know, that was really refreshing to see her. And that's one of the things that's beautiful in this life. You know, the friends that I meet and the times that you run across each other again.
Wow. Well, we are coming up on time very soon. Marisa, do you think it's okay for us to take a few audience questions? And Jayne, are you okay with taking a few audience questions?
I can do that. I'd like to also talk about my, you know, like people say, well, what are you doing now? Well, the book is out and they also line of fragrances out.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I have, I created with a designer, a fragrance designer, a fragrance called Jayne Kennedy Sun and Jayne Kennedy Moon. And it's available at JayneKennedy.com. It's great for a Valentine's Day gift. So, you know, that's just, but I wanted to keep the essence of who I am, which goes back to what I said in the beginning. I wanted it to be some of my culture in it. So we have Ethiopian opals in it from my time that I spent in Africa. And it has tobacco leaves in it, which is my mom grew up on a tobacco farm. And it has frankincense and myrrh from Northern Africa, Northeastern Africa, from my trip to that part of the country. So it was just, I should say to that part of the continent, my apologies. But, you know, I just wanted to have something that meant this is me and not just a flowery fragrance. So I hope everybody enjoys it. But it's an afternoon, which is Jayne Kennedy Sun, and an evening fragrance, which is a roll-on, heavier fragrance. And it's Jayne Kennedy Moon.
I like the options that you gave. That one is a spray and one is a roll-on.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes.
Now I want to ask, because I'm a fragrance girly. As soon as I said that, I said, "Oh, let me find out. Can you layer them? Are they? Is it appropriate to layer them?
To layer them? Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And we have men that have come to it and say that at some of the book signings, and I have the samples there, and they said they love it. You know, so it could be it's an earthy smell. It's not flowery whatsoever. So yeah, you know, anybody could wear it.
Wonderful. So again, it's Sun and Moon.
Yes, Jayne Kennedy Sun, Jayne Kennedy Moon.
Wonderful. So you can pick that up at JayneKennedy.com, not just for Valentine's Day, L365.
Right.
And then we'll put this up again at the end, but we definitely want to make sure that you all dig into this book. It is available at JayneKennedy.com and other booksellers, but JayneKennedy.com will take you straight there. It is a fantastic read. I told you I did it in a few hours because it is that good. It is that wonderful. And there are that many lessons to be learned. Absolutely.
I also want to say to the listeners that it's not just about the NFL today. People are so familiar with me in that regard. But, you know, my life has taken such a roller coaster. There have been so many incredible people in my life. And those stories are all there. Those stories are, you know, that carried over when the guy that wrote Roots, I'm sorry, what's his name? Alex Haley. And he came, I want to write your book, Jayne. He said, I want to write a book about what it means to be a Black woman in today's America and to be a beautiful Black woman. And we were talking, we were at the World's Fair and we were co-hosting an event and we were talking and he said, And this is all in the book. He was talking about how it was so important to take that message, and then he was gone before we got a chance to do it. So, but there's the people that I've been friends with, secrets of that, that I've had and shared, and I just hope you enjoy the book.
Mm.
I mean, it is absolutely.
A lot of it was very hard for me to write.
Before we get a question, Dr. Tachi, I'm so glad you just said this, because that was going to be my question, Jayne, because Dr. Tachi, when we were preparing to have a conversation with you, we were talking about certain chapters in the book where, for myself, I teared up, like generally teared up. And it goes back to the forgiveness question that Dr. Tachi had talked about. And we had both said, which chapter was it that was like, you were, trying to get through? And for me, it was chapter 32. And that whole entire, the way that Scandal is now versus what it was back then. And just how, two-part question. How long did it take you to write that chapter? Because it was just such a painful, how everything just evolved on, your ex-husband coming and saying that, the tape had leaked out. How long did it take you to write those words? And then when you wrote that chapter, part 2 of the question, when did the healing start for you? Because again, what Dr. Tachi had said about different things that happened to you throughout your journey and what you dealt with, and being angry, but then God showing up and the forgiveness coming in. When did the healing take place after all of that transpired at that moment?
A lot of people mistakenly assume that the tape came out as a revenge piece, as an action of Leon. It was not. Leon and I divorced in 82. We separated in 81. I got married again in 85. I had 2 children by the time 1990 came along. My husband, Bill Overton, and I were producing an amazing play called The Journey of the African American. And it was supposed to run for 6 weeks, and it ended up running for 10 months. We were asked to do a command performance by Mayor Tom Bradley when Nelson Mandela came to Los Angeles when he was initially freed. And there we had our cast, our singers and dancers on the stage at City Hall, welcoming Mandela to Los Angeles. So everything was shining bright for me. I had had these amazing babies. I had my stepdaughter, and it just was. I was just happy, and there was nothing sad in my life. And then all of a sudden, we're on the road with our crew, 32 members, 32 or 36. And they're on the road, and then we get this message from the next venue that we're supposed to go to in Detroit, canceled because of the tape. And then we get a message from Houston, canceling the show. We're stuck with all of these people on the road. We have to get them back to California. Don't know what happened. I had no idea what was going on. And get back to Los Angeles, and I had a ton of messages on my phone, cancel, cancel, cancel. We're not going to do this, not going to do that. And I tried to call people, then they wouldn't answer the phone. It was just, complete shut off. My life went from pure joy to disgrace. And I knew that there was nothing that I did wrong. That's the part that hurt the most. Not that it was done, but I knew that I did nothing wrong. And here I am being blamed, for something. And I said, this cannot be happening. And it was really difficult. And Leon called and he said, he came to the door and he said, we have to talk, and I said, well, Bill asked him, do you want it to be private? He said, no. He said, we both need to talk. So he said, the tape is out. And he said, I will do whatever you want me to do. It's up to you. And I decided that I did not want to do a press conference. He said that he thought it would be best. Bill said he thought it would be best. But I could not do it because I was broken.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I just couldn't do that. I could not do that and have my children look at me. I couldn't do that. And you ask how long did it take? It took 10 years for me to recover, if you will. And it was because two different things had happened. The NAACP Image Awards, I become a recluse. I stayed indoors. If I was asked to do anything, I canceled. I said, I don't want to go. The only thing I did was my daughters. Put them in sports program, followed them around basketball, volleyball, and they were amazing. And it was so much fun. And my life was filled with them without the outside. I gained way too much weight because I didn't want anybody to see me. I didn't want anybody to know me. And it was the hardest moment in my life. And I didn't think it was going to end because it kept going on. And I finally said, I need to talk to someone. And there was a message that came that the NAACP wanted Bill and I to do, present an award at the Image Awards. And he said, do you want to go? Knowing that I was going to say no again. And I said, yes. And I think it was because I knew it was time for me to come through this, through this stage in my life. But then when we got to the theater, I couldn't do it. I saw my friends in the audience. I saw, these people that when I first came to Los Angeles, they all were my friends. And I didn't let them into my life when I probably could have had my friends support me. But here they are, and they're sitting in the audience, and I'm looking through the curtain. I said, I can't go out, so I'm hiding in the curtains. I don't want anybody to find me. And I'm trying to find a window because there's no doors. How can I get out of a window? What am I going to do? And so Bill just grabbed me, and he took me on stage, and he had my hand. And he said, I want to thank the NAACP for getting my wife out of the house. And that was a moment. That was a saving moment for me.
Yeah.
I got a standing ovation from my peers. I knew that I had to go forward then. I knew that I had to go forward for my children. I decided to put full focus into writing the book. First, I was going to write it for me. Whether it came out or not, I just needed to write it for me. I just needed to get all the crap out of my head.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I realized, that no, I have to write the whole story. And the whole story included the sad and the good. So, it was hard. It was hard. But 10 years later, my best friend is Claudette Robinson, and I didn't even talk to her during 10 years.
Wow. Thank you for sharing this, for sharing it in the book, and then sharing this with the audience and with us, because as Ron said, you are helping folks today through this conversation.
Yeah.
There are other people, I'm sure, that feel that they can't face people, they can't face what they've been through, but by you sharing this, hopefully this gives them the resilience to start to face it. I mean, you walked on stage in front of how many thousands of people at the NAACP Image Awards. So thank you for sharing this story.
Thank you. I have to get to the place where I am whole again.
Yeah.
All of this helps. All of this helps. And like I said, my daughters.
I love how you talked about them in this book. I love how the first words was, "I love being a mother."
I
And you
do.
dove
I
in,
do.
you told so many stories about Savannah playing basketball, about Zaire, about Copper Joy, about Cheyenne. Like
Yeah.
each of them had their moment in the
Yes.
sun, if that makes sense. You had talked about what they loved and what you loved about them and interacting with them. And the part where towards near the end of the book where Savannah, and correct me if I'm wrong, Savannah was the one where there was pastors that laid hands on her and prayed over her.
Yes.
I would say that. And then,
Yes.
her little hands on your face and y'all bump noses and everything. Oh my God. I'm like, I know that you like melted, like just reflecting so much on each one of them. But I loved how we got to know them through your voice in this book, right? Like we saw what you loved about each of them. You set it up so beautifully about their personas and how, one of them is protective and the other one is pretty much a showstopper that, can make the crowd stop and just look at her. And just the other one that's just, is a thinker, and they all have that gift, but it's tied beautifully in a packaged, beautiful box with a big bow.
A love letter to your daughters, basically.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. It was a love letter.
Thank you.
It made us, like, we were talking the other day and she was talking about, so I said, she was like, I think Savannah. I said, no, that was Copper. So I'm like, no, that was Copper. Well, we know them now through your words. And that's why
we felt like we were there growing up with them in this book. Yeah.
Yes. Well,
so
people have told me that they feel like, the feeling of, and you know what, one of the best parts is doing the audible version in my own voice. Oh my God, that was amazing. Because I didn't anticipate that. I wanted it. That was one of the demands that I made. But you make demands and you don't get them. But they allowed me to do the audible in my own voice, and that was incredible. I had never done that before. I tried to do it and serve it justice, but by the time we got to the end, I was I just loved the whole process. And I begged them, I said, let me go back and do the first 2 chapters because, I wasn't getting those when I first started. But, that was truly an experience. And that's available. That's also available at JayneKennedy.com.
That's so good.
Yes. Fantastic.
We got some questions.
Yes, because
great.
we don't want to take up too much of your time. We respect your time that you've spent with us today. So let's go. G.R. Houston Jack asked, is there a moment or a lesson from your life that you didn't make it into the book, not because it wasn't important, but because it was still unfolding for you? I love that.
That's a great question.
Yes.
That's a great question. Yes, there are many questions there are many things that are not in the book. My original draft, when I signed my contract with Disney, they said to me, well, you're going to have to write 350 pages. Like that was going to be a challenge, and I couldn't do it, So I said, well, okay, that's fine. I've already got 879 pages and I'm still writing. So, the challenge then became, what do I take out? So yeah, there's a lot that isn't there that I would have liked to seen remain in the book. I had an entire chapter that just ended up being 2 paragraphs. But it's so hard when you're writing with editors and people and deadlines and money, and I'm trying to tell my story and lay it out, and then I'm talking to people about doing a film on it, a docufilm, and I'm knowing that that's not going to have everything in the book in it, so you got to pick your points and you pick your moments and try to find out what's best for the different genres of the project, but. I enjoyed the process. And like I said, I took it wasn't like I had deadlines. I took it step by step when I was ready. And I'm proud of it.
We are too.
Thank you.
We are proud of your book.
Extremely proud. Okay, we also have Susan Sawyer, who asked, how did you come to get involved with sports journalism after acting?
Well, in the 70s, there weren't very many opportunities for someone looking for a career in entertainment. So I had been working, trying to get to know whoever I could, which I would suggest to any of the young people out there. You have to make your presence known, because it's not often by the resume that gets you a job. And so in my chance, it wasn't always my acting resume or going to an interview that was going to get me a job. The jobs came with who do you know and how do you make those connections work for you. So I always advise that. But, back to the question, he said what?
How did you come to get involved with sports journalism after acting?
Yes. So back in the 70s, as I was going to say, you have to realize there weren't very many opportunities. So my approach to it was to do anything that I was capable of doing. When the job opened for the NFL Today, I knew that I could do that job. I had sports experience, and I had a lot of people that were friends of mine that were playing in the NFL and NBA. My father had 5 daughters. Before he finally had a son, we all played sports, but we were pre-Title IX, so we didn't have opportunities to play like some of the women do today. So, this was my chance to actually truly get into sports, which I had loved my entire life. And if you're asking this question, let me ask you, do you remember Bobo Purcell? And the Cocoa Butt, those are people that, I grew up with, and I used to be the girl that was on the back of my uncle's motorcycle. He did stunt riding. So I would sit, I was maybe 10 years old, and I would sit with a spoon in my mouth, a raw egg in the spoon, and I would turn my back to him and hold around his waist as he raced the motorcycle, lying down between cones as close to the ground as he could, because I was daring, because I love sports, and I was a huge Browns fan. So when this opportunity came, I said, if I can get this opportunity, I know I can do the job, just because I believed in myself. And I got no training. They threw me on the desk. They wouldn't give me any training whatsoever. And I didn't even go into the stage room until my first day on air. So there were so many things that were working against me that I had to make happen myself. Leon and I had made a 10-year plan, and that plan was to meet and challenge everything that we possibly could. And we achieved that. The unfortunate thing was at the end of our 10-year plan, with the success of it, we had lost our marriage. But I did know that I could do that job. I did not know how amazing that opportunity was, and how many doors that opportunity would open up for all women. For, when I look back and I see how many people have been able to benefit by me just going in and saying, okay, I'm going to do this job, and the clacker clacks and it says Jayne Kennedy, and then I got hired. Who knew that we would be here today?
Yeah.
With all these beautiful people doing this work. And I'm so happy to be a part of it.
We're grateful for you and what you have done and what you have paved the way. And when people speak your name, immediately that comes up is she's a pioneer. She's a trailblazer. Near the end of the chapter, the Representation Matters chapter, going back to that real quick, and all the stories that you told about people walking up to you and thanking you and how much you inspired them in your life. And then, fast forward to today of, you going on Tamron Hall, soon to be the Sherry Shepherd show, getting your flowers, your well-deserved flowers, Jayne, for what you have done and what you continue to do. Because as you beautifully said on this book tour, you're not done yet. There's other things that you are going to be doing. I'm so excited that you are going to do a documentary of your life. And that is not coming from anybody's mouth, but from you, just like this book. And I'm just thrilled of the path that is now happening for you and going to be happening for all of us. And we get to watch and be a part of something that is going to be continually special that you're doing. So I want to give you my flowers to you of what you have meant to me on this journey that we're doing. As Dr. Tachi said, this collab, what we do is Black women in the media, in the podcasting space, would not be without you. And we want to acknowledge you.
Thank you.
And say your name, Jayne Kennedy, over to
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yes, say her name.
Can I say one other thing, and I'll try to make it brief?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I just thought of this. My most significant point in this entire journey, I took my book. My mom is 95 years old. She has dementia. I took my book to her. I wanted her to see it in person. And she looked at it and she said, "My daughter wrote this." She said, "Jayne, you wrote all of this? You wrote all of this?" And my mom, and I told about it in the book. She grew up on a tobacco farm and they had 15 kids. They had to work the farm. They didn't have they went to school till 3rd grade. And my mom, she lived a lot of her life through me in my career. And she's looking at this book and she says, and she's tearing up and she's saying, "I can't believe that my daughter wrote this book." And so I started reading it to her and she kept saying, "You wrote that, you wrote that." And then she said, with Alzheimer's and memory loss, she had the most lucid moment that I'd ever seen for her in the last 15 years. My daughter was there. She happened to capture it on video. And she was talking about the importance of spreading the word and letting younger people know the challenges that we all faced in our careers, in our lifetime, in our families, in our struggles, and how important it is to let people know so that they're taught to understand how important it is. And they're taught to recognize those people that can help them to achieve their goals. Mm-hmm. She went on for 15 minutes talking about my book.
Wow. I have no more Kleenex to cry into. I was not prepared.
This was so therapeutic. This was,
thank you.
I'm like seriously exhaling. It was a beautiful experience reading the book. I'm so honored to have the opportunity to even speak with you today.
Oh,
so
no, don't do that. Don't do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm just plain Jayne.
Says you. So we can all see that you are well beyond plain. And really quickly before we go, I just want to, everybody that's on Instagram, we couldn't put your comments up, but you're getting lots of hearts, Jayne. You're getting lots of flowers. Zap Boogie is saying, "Have mercy" to this whole thing.
I love Zap Boogie.
Eyes on Me is clapping. Fifi said, "So beautiful and graceful." There's so many, and Zap Boogie also says, "I can only imagine the difficulties that you had during the 70s." So thank you everybody who watched on all of these. Before we go, I think I want to we'll end with Jayne stuff because we have to promote her once again. But let's start. Marisa, talk a little bit. Tell us about Heard That with Marisa Tigney and how people can listen and all of that.
Oh my goodness. First of all, this was an incredible moment. This will not be the last collab that I have with you, Dr. Tachi. So let's just bookmark that right now in this video.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea. I love that.
My podcast is coming back, ladies and gentlemen. Full episodes will be available starting in February. HeardThatWithMarisa.com for all the new things that are happening. And I'm so excited that chapter is starting very soon. You can find me on the socials. I am on Instagram, Marisa_Tigney_podcast. I am on X, not a whole lot though, but I am on X, Facebook, and on TikTok at Marisa Tigney Podcast. And again, Jayne, this was an absolute thrill, a delight, an honor, a treat of what you're doing, what you continue to do. We are so humbled and grateful to be in your presence. And I just thank you so much. And you are my forever friend. And I am so proud of you for what you are doing and what you continue to do. And y'all get out there and please, we want to move her to New York Times bestseller list.
Yes.
So
Yes, please.
get this book, please, please, please.
Yes.
I want to
Buy
wake
the
up and
book.
see that Plain Jane is #1 on the New York bestseller list. Yes, I'm looking right into the camera. That is my wish.
Thank you.
Please, y'all, she takes
you.
you on an incredible journey of her life, and it's beautifully written in this memoir. So let's get her to the top. #1, Plain Jane. Go purchase your books right now.
Yes, and this all started with the conversation the two of you had. So that's just
Yeah.
goes to show how much you can learn from someone else, and to be open to any possibility. When you have a dream, don't just go through life with blinders on. Be the Michelle Obama in the sleeveless dress.
Amen.
Yes.
Come on,
Yes.
sleeveless dress. And it just occurred to me that because I'm also running the tech, I've ignored myself completely. If you don't know who I am, I'm Dr. Tachi. I am the host of MediaScope. We're still on sabbatical. We're not coming back till like March. So don't worry, you've got this to keep you warm till March. I'm also the founder of Indie Soup Media, an independent network for independent content creators. You can find me at Dr._Tachi on all platforms. My main one is YouTube. And now let's throw it over to you, Jayne, so that you can talk more about what you have.
Well, I have my book, Plain Jane, and I hope everybody goes out and buys one. That would be absolutely great. But, if you're not into reading, you can check it out on Audible, because that is even better. I truly enjoyed the Audible experience, where you can actually feel the voice and hear the voice and experience the telling of the tale. So I appreciate all of you having me. Check me out on JayneKennedy.com for any updates and new events. We're touring on the road. I'm taping Sherry Shepherd next week. It will air in March. And unfortunately, we're going to tape on Monday, but the storm is kind of kicking us, and so now we're going to air in March. But I just really love the idea that that you support me, because it feels warm and it feels genuine, and I truly appreciate all that you do. Thank you.
Even if you didn't want our support, you have it now.
You have it.
Thank
There's
you.
nothing you can do about it.
Thank you.
You were absolutely amazing. Marisa, thank you. Guys, Marisa pulled me into this and said, "Oh no, you have to be on." I'm like, "Did you have to ask?" Yeah, I was coming. so
Well, no,
thank you.
I called Marisa and I said, "I'm going to be in Texas. I'm going to Dallas." I said, "We have to see each other. We have to, because
Yes.
we've been talking to each other over the years, and it all began with that conversation that the two of you had." And so that's another thing that young people have to acknowledge. Broaden your scope so that you can help other people as well, and it comes back to you. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Amen. Amen.
And this, to end with Susan Sawyer's words, this truly was a blessing. So we are going to respect your time and let you go. Don't hang up quite yet, because we want to say goodbye to you properly, but we are going to say goodbye to the audience. Thank you all so very much for joining us today. We are, because of you. Listen, make this a New York Times bestseller. Don't let me come back and none of you have bought. Don't let Marisa come back and you're talking about, I still have to buy the book. Buy it today. Today.
When we get the bestseller, I'll come back and do the show again.
Let's go. Y'all heard that? Yes.
You heard that. Exactly.
Yes.
So, we've got
so
to
y'all need to get online right now, because we want her back.
Yes,
we definitely do.
Absolutely.
We definitely do. Thank you so much, Jayne, for being with us today. Thank you, Marisa. And thank you all out there on all the different channels for being here today. We will see you when Jayne comes back, but probably before. Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much. Cheers.